I want to know what the difference is between repealing the SAFE Act and doing amendments. I can't see where amendments are going to help us, that we really need to repeal this whole thing.
Thank you. I've put a bill in to repeal sections of the law. And some of the sections, of course, that I'm looking to repeal would be the newly defined assault weapons, the magazines from 10 to 7, the registration, things I've left in, the additional penalties on criminals, Kendra's law, Mark's law, and I did leave in the section on giving schools additional funds for protection of our children, so the schools could work at protecting our children. So those are the items that I left. Everything else I repealed. And the reason that I did it that way was because I felt that those items were good. You know, from the moment I stood up, I said, not everything in this bill is bad. So when you're protecting emergency services people and Kendra's law and our kids in school and giving criminals additional penalties, I felt that those things were worth keeping. And so I put a repeal bill in for sections of the law and not the entire law.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And I'd like to give time to my colleague, Steve McLaughlin, too. Just a quick note. The way the bill was formed, and this gets back to the issue of the court action, the bill was formed with what they call the severability clause. So we know that there are court actions pending, and as you heard from the Congressman, much of this will probably go to the Supreme Court before it's decided. But the way the bill's set up, if a portion of it's stricken, the bill in chief will still continue by virtue of the severability clause. So they're going to have to test every section of the bill and take every section of the bill through the full court process to get the relief. On the repeal piece, and this is part of the challenge, remember that almost 2/3 of both houses and the governor passed the bill to begin with. And so the challenge to repeal it means that, one, you have to get sponsors in both houses. You got to get it to the floor of both houses, which means that the leadership of both houses have to agree to sign it, or to bring it to the floor for a vote. And then you've got to get the governor to sign the thing, to sign the repeal. So the challenge, and the challenge is there, but it's going to mean pressure on every member in the state of New York, in their districts, to get them to say repeal. And that's going to be our collective challenge. If we want repeal, you've got allies here. We're ready to do it. But there's 211 members of the legislature, and you need at least a majority of both houses to pass it, and then the governor to agree to sign it. And if he vetoes it, you got to have 2/3 to override his veto. So that's the reality that we're dealing with as we address this. So I just want to highlight our challenge. We're up for it, but we're going to need to get inside every member's head, inside of every district, from Montauk to Buffalo to St. Lawrence, to make this happen.
You know, Kathy and Pete summed it up very well. I will say it's nice to see this floor looks a lot like the Capitol lawn right now. It's just it's a beautiful thing. You know, people ask all the time, can we get it repealed? Can we get it repealed? I say, well, if they honor the Constitution, they never would have passed the thing to begin with. So getting them to man up and repeal this thing and admit their mistake, as Pete said, Kathy said, probably not going to happen. In fact, I would say realistically it won't happen because they won't admit that they violated their oath of office and the Constitution by passing this. However, we can repeal it with a new governor and with a whole bunch of new representatives. That could and I do think that, as the Congressman said, we have a great chance of getting very big parts of this, if not the whole thing, overturned. So I think we talk about overturning it in the courts, and with repeal, you know, politically not really likely, unfortunately, but we don't give up. And to see, I think we're 37 now, 37 counties have officially stood up and opposed this, and we will be at 50 before long. I think the next time these county legislatures meet, they're gonna stand up and oppose it, and then we'll be at 50. So I'd like to see the governor continue to say that we're just a small minority, and even if we were, it's interesting to see that for a man that constantly talked about protecting the rights of the minority, that he seems to want to ignore this minority, which is not really much of a minority. I have to tell you, I think we're in the majority. Clearly, from Westchester North, we are in a solid majority position.
I want to say one other thing on this that I think is significant, and that is when you look at the voting patterns. Okay, we just came through a presidential election where they just absolutely crushed you with every single day with commercials and coverage. And at the end of the day, after all that, 47% of the people eligible to vote in our state voted. Okay, midterm elections, traditionally, we have between 25 and say 27, 29% turnout. Here's my point. When they take all these polls and everything like that, if we can make a difference, if we get every single person we know to register and to get out and vote, we will get their attention. That's why the actions that we're doing to get our county legislators to come out and to make these kind of expressions. You know, like I said, in a district with 11 counties, with every county either voting for or preparing to vote, these are strong messages. So do not feel defeated. In fact, the talk that you got earlier, we're going to unite and we're going to stand up and express ourselves in a republic, a participatory democracy. And we're going to stand behind our Bill of Rights. All right, thanks.